Hi, this is Martin for Revelation Software, and we're back with yet another video looking at getting started with O4W. This is going to be Forms Part 2, in which we're going to create the patient entry record window, having previously created the appointments one and obviously the records for the list box lookups. So first thing we'll do is we'll run up O4W. And if you haven't got your services running, things don't work. So let's just go into a services, and we need to run up the OEngine server. It does help if you have these tools running on your system, and we also need to make sure that we've got our web server running, and then we'll give it another go. Okay, that's better. Right, what we'll do is we'll log in. And we'll create and modify a new form. I'm going to be creating a new one. We're not going to use the OA form to convert this time, although we could because we've already got the form there. We're going to create a brand new one. So we'll give it a name, being MP_patient. Okay, I've done it lowercase, so it's going to complain, so it's going next. And we need to enter a description, so we'll have patient records. The table that we need to use is obviously going to be MP patient, and the title, we'll call this patient record maintenance. I'm happy with the default template, no background image. The header is going to be the same. I think we'll have patient record maintenance. And our footer, we're going to have our copyright. Background color, foreground color will leave. The link color we'll keep consistent by having our blue and our purple. We'll have no borders around the cells. Form alignment will be left. The link text, we're just going to have our normal link to our website, and next to go to the next screen. Okay, behavior, we're not going to use the OI form mode this time. We want to search on key and search, just so that we've got a different type of searching. The number of keys in the field 0, we haven't got any multi-part keys, so I'm happy. We'll pick our menu as we did before. The permissions are none. We will allow new records, and we're going to allow those with a counter as key. We'll retry for locked and ID conflicts. We will set the commuter module to run. We'll allow editing and deletion. We'll add the buttons as well, and again, like before, we'll select all of these items for the commuter module, and we've got our counter table, etc. in there. So that's all pretty much as it was in the previous lesson. We'll click next, and that takes us to the groups. Now there are a number of groups that we're going to need this time. We need to have patient info with some patient details, and we can select all of the defaults except the table width we want to set to 450. We'll add a new one, and this time we will have patient info 2. And we won't have an optional title for that. We need to have patient info 3, and again we don't want a title for that one. We want to have patient picture. We want to display our photograph, and lastly we want to have consultations or appointments. I keep mixing between the two. We do want to have titles for the picture, and we want to have a title for consultations. Hopefully my spelling's okay, I'm going through this fairly quickly. And then we need to make a few changes. The table width 450, well I want to have the consultations as 900. and we're happy with all of the defaults except for that consultations table. In there I want to have an add button, and we'll put that on the top. We'll have a delete button on the top, and we'll allow a rearrange. I might actually want to lose these buttons because this is not going to have the ability to add and delete rows, I guess, but we'll leave it like that for the moment. We can change it later. The default widths I don't want to worry about, and this time we are going to be using tabs, so leave that button or checkbox unchecked. The default tab name is going to be just information, I think. And we do want to have a few additional tabs. We want to have one for comments, and we also want to have one for consultations. And the user fields, we don't need to have anything in there, so once we're happy we'll go next. That takes us to the fields that we want to search on. So initially we want to enable our users to search on surname, the town and the postcode, and the results that we're going to show will be the hospital number. I think we'll have the surname, the town makes sense, and probably the postcode because that will be unique to the individual. Next we'll click on the display on tab. A few more boxes here. These are the different tabs that we have. So on all pages I'm going to want to have the hospital number, I'm going to want to have the person's title, and I think we'll have their forename and also their surname. With regards to the information, there's quite a few bits here that we need. So we're going to need the date of birth, the approximate age, the gender, address, town, postcode, signature, and the image path. Now they're not all going to be in the right order, but there's quite a few, so I've just brought those in and we'll reorder those later. On the comments tab we are simply going to put comments, and then on the consultations tab we're going to have the appointment ID, we're going to have the appointment date and time, and we're going to have the doctor's name, and I think we'll have the summary. And we'll click next when we're done. Actually, we won't click next when we're done. Let's go back to fields because I need to do the display and association. I missed that one. So let's have a look at what we need to do here. Right, so where are we actually going to, or how are we going to group these controls? Let me just drop them in and I'll explain why things are where in a moment. So we'll have date of birth, approximate age and gender. And we're going to have address in patient info 2. We're going to have the town in patient info 3 along with the postcode and the signature. And for the patient picture we're going to have the image path, and for consultations we're going to have the appointment ID, we'll have the date, the time, the doctor's name, and we'll have the summary information. Right, so why have I split these controls out? They're all sort of related to each other, but I've put them all in different associations, and the reason for that is that these controls here are all single value dictionary items, where the address is the multi-value dictionary item. And what I want to do when we actually come to display this is have the address, all the lines underneath each other. And because you can't mix single value and multi-value in the same association, I've got the initial group of controls in one, the multi-value in another, and then the single value in another. It will become a bit more obvious when we actually move to view the form and you can see what's happening there. So trust me for now, let's just go next. And we're taken to the search page. So we can select a key for our entry, or we can pass in an explicit value, or we can use a store procedure. I'm not going to, we're just going to use the standard O4W tools. but I do want to make some changes here. At the moment we're going to be searching on surname, town and postcode. Well, the surname could be case insensitive, as could the town. The comparison type we're happy with explicit. I'm not overly happy with the prompts here, so I think we'll have enter a surname. We'll also have enter a town, and we'll enter a postcode. Obviously a zip code if you're in the States, but I'm in the UK and we have postcodes, not zip codes. Skip if null, yes. Multiple selection, no. I'm happy with all of those defaults, not doing anything with indexes. So once we are done, we'll click next, and then that will take us onto the selection window. O4W is prompting us for 4 items. Now we don't really want to have hospital number because we've been calling this patient number within the system. Surname, town and postcode I'm happy with, but we'll change our label colours to be the same as the rest of the application to keep it uniform. And the column width, I'm actually going to set these to 100 just to see what they're like. Whoops. So once we've made those changes, we'll click next, and that will take us on to the edit and display window. Now we've got 4 tabs. First of all, we got all pages. So again, we'll change our hospital number to patient number. Title we're happy with, forenames and surname. The label, I want to make all of those to be left and the colour to be the green colour that we've been using, and I want that to be uniform throughout this form, so we'll save that. I want the hospital number to be left aligned, and we also want to make the text box, we'll size that to 40. Remember, this is all to do with the lines and things, so let's save out with the label widths and things. For the input and display details for the title, we need to make some changes in here. We don't want a text box, we want that to be a list box. We'll have an explicit value for a new record, and we're going to set that to be Mr. Not that I'm sexist, but just as an option. We will have a table with a specific code record because we want to pick up the codes that we created before. So the table name is MP_O4W codes. The description field number is 1, and the code record name is titles, and the field number is 2. So we will save that when we're done. And then we need to look at the information tab. Right, now we need to move some of these around to make our form look a little bit better because we just dropped these in. So let's order those first. Highlighting one of these boxes, you get the 4-way arrow, so we can just click and drag date of birth to the top. We'll then have the approximate age. We'll then have a gender. Address is okay where it is, but it'd be nice to have the town under the address and the postcode underneath that. And then we've got the signature and image path. Date of birth, we're happy with that label. I don't like that label, so we change that to age. Gender, we're okay with address, town, postcode. Signature, we'll change that to signature on file. And I don't actually want to have a label for the image path, so we'll just delete that one out. We'll make the colours the same as we've had previously, and we'll left align, and we'll do that for all of the options, but we don't actually want that for all of them, so we'll go into the image path, and I'm just going to change that back to white. We need to change the date of birth value to left align because I just happen to like them to be left aligned. And the date of birth, will set the width of that control to 40. And then we need to make a couple of other changes. For the gender, we don't want that to be a text box any longer. We want that to be radio buttons. We'll have an explicit value for new records, and that explicit value is going to be M for male. We'll choose table with specific code record as we did before. We'll have MP underscore O4W codes 1. The record name in this instance is gender, and 2, so that's all pretty much the same as before. And for signature on file, we're going to change that to be a checkbox. We'll have an explicit value of N, so the photograph is not on file. And then we'll move on to comments. I think we've got everything there. If we haven't, we can easily come back to that. I don't need a label because we've just got the one control on this particular tab, so it makes no sense to have that there. But one of the things that we do want to do is to make that a little bit wider, because 20 is not very wide at all, so we'll change that to 150, and we'll also change it to multi-line text as well while we're here. So we'll save that. And lastly, we need to look at the consultations. I don't like a lot of these labels, so we'll change that to ID, and we'll just have date, time, because it's obvious that these are appointments, so change that to doctor, and we'll have summary. Okay, we'll have the background color as green, and we're going to have over and under. Now these are multi-value controls, so we want to have this in like a table with the labels at the top, and we will center the ID. I just prefer to have my IDs where their numbers centered. It's just a personal preference. With the input and display details, I don't want that to be a text box that people can edit. I want it to be non-editable, because we're going to be bringing that information in, and this is a multi-value, so we'll set that. For the date, we need to set that to multi-value, and we also need to set the validation. I'm going to force that to be a D. For the time, again it's multi-value, and we're going to force that to be MTH. For the doctor, we'll just set that to multi-value as well. I'm going to set all these to multi-value. Okay, yes, let's save. And on this particular form, we want to give the users the ability to launch the appointment in the appointment window. And in here, if we go into the link properties, then if we go to link type, an O4W form passing in the key, and the form that we want to run is the MP apps that we created earlier, and I'm not going to worry about images and pop-ups and things. So if we save that, and next will take us into our form completion. First time we save this, so we'll save the commuter module with that name, and we'll automatically generate the commuter module shell. So we'll hit save, and we'll test run. Okay, this time we get this little search menu, so I can enter in a search name, a surname, a town, or a postcode, or I can click one of the drop downs, which gives me all of the surnames in my system, or I could have all of the towns in the system. So for instance, if I grab Moran, and I could also add a new record if I wanted to, but I go search, and then that brings back the patient record for Terry Moran. You can see the patient number, etc., the date of birth, the age, gender, everything's working fine. There are a couple of issues in here. The first issue is obviously that the image is not displaying, and the second issue that I've got is the signature on file is not displaying, and the address is also displaying across the form, whereas I'd like to have those one under the other. So I think there's a few bits and pieces that we need to go and fix up, so we'll go away and do that now. So we'll close out of this window. Right, so the first thing we want to do is just to have a look at the address. If we go into edit and display, under the information, our address, and for the label we want to make that over and under, which means that we're going to have the label on top and then all of the individual line items underneath. So we will save that. Okay, if we just come down a bit, then signature on file, we set it to a checkbox, but what we didn't do is to set the source. So we need to have that as a yes, no, no. I can use one of the standard ones for this because it's just a yes or a no. So we'll save that. With regards to the picture, I want to make sure that that is set to a plain text, not editable. Now you might want to have a button and a lookup so that people can actually put the path in there, but I'm not quite that clever, so we're not going to worry about that too much for now. And we want to display an image, and the value is the URL. We could pass in explicit URL, etc., but I don't need to worry about that for now. So we will save. And one of the other issues was the comments were too short for the text area. That was just the default 20. I'm going to change that to 100 for now. Save that. We'll go into completion, save, and test run and see what we get this time. So we'll go and pick Moran again. Okay, so we've got our breadcrumb where we can go back to the search if we want to. We've brought in our record. We have our Mr. and Mrs. etc. drop down, date of birth, agenda, etc. I've now got my address with all of the address lines, the multi-value address lines underneath. I've got my signature on file, so I could just select that as a yes, and I've also got my patient picture displaying now, and I've got my revsoft.co.uk link. The comments, we've got our comments box, which is a bit wider, so we're happy with that, and we've also got the consultations table where these are all the consultations we've had with this particular client. Again, I've got the add and delete. I guess we don't really want to have those in there because these are just lookup information, so we'll need to take those out. Actually, let's go and do that right now. Cancel out of there. Let's just go into this one. And under the groups, we want to turn off these buttons. Now, obviously, if you were going to be enable your users to add columns or rows into the table, then you need to turn those on. I will allow them to rearrange them though. So completion, save, and we'll test run. And we'll go Moran again, search. I'm just choosing that because I know that the image works because we've got that URL image. Remember the issue with the URL in there, that we might want to have a different path. Sorry about that, that was the dog barking downstairs. And we go comments, that looks good. Consultations, that all looks good. And if we click on number 11, then that will go away and it will run up our appointments form that we created earlier, displaying that form. So I think that everything seems to be working fine as far as the forms are concerned. That's pretty much done for this lesson. In the next lesson we'll look at putting a couple of reports together. Thank you very much for your time. I'll see you then. Bye bye.